Hey, what's up you guys, it's Connor, and today we're going to be continuing my 2020 reading wrap-up with books 31 through 35. Right, buddy? Yes. If you guys don't know, these are the videos where I do shorter miniature reviews of all the most recent books that I've read. If I've done an individual book review for a book, I will leave it linked up in the card symbol and you can check it out. I'll also leave up there a playlist of the previous wrap-ups so you can catch up if you're behind. Editing me here, I realized that I wasn't talking about this as directly as I should have been. So before we get started, I wanted to say that I hope that everyone is staying safe with COVID-19 and with protesting the wrongful death of George Floyd and all of the other black people who have been wrongfully killed by police officers. I really do hope that all of these protests and all of the activism really brings about some change because we need it. I will leave links down in the description to some resources where you can help out or volunteer or donate money to help support everyone that's trying to make a change and for the people that are protesting and stuff like that. There are links where you can donate to support people for bail money and everything like that. So check out those links for sure. Donate if you can, amplify black voices, and make sure that we make steps in the right direction. Now let's just jump into my miniature reviews. The 31st book that I read in 2020 is Reverie by Ryan LaSala. This follows a boy named Kane Montgomery. At the beginning of the book, you find out that he has forgotten the past few months of his life. He doesn't really know what's going on. All he knows is that people have said that he drove his father's car into a historic building and the car and the building went up in flames. So he's trying to figure out what the heck is happening. His younger sister Sophia is very plucky and very pushy and she really wants to help him, but he's not sure if he really wants her help. He's really struggling basically. Also at the beginning of the book, you find out that there are 3 people that are in his class that may know him a little bit better than he thinks that they do. Like he has forgotten how he knows them basically. And then as the story goes along, you find out that they go into these things called reveries, and basically their job is to make sure that the reveries break down. Reveries are people's dreams that kind of take over the world, or take over portions of the world. So there are a ton of different reveries that we get to see, which was really fun. There are like historical romance reveries, there are barbarian reveries, there are sci-fi reveries. So that was one of the things that I really liked about this because you got a little taste of different genres within one YA fantasy book. I also really liked the powers that some of the characters have. I thought it was interesting finding out how they would use them and how they manifested. One thing that I wish was clear was basically how they got their powers. Like, it does explain it a little bit, but it doesn't explain it all that much, so that left me a little bit confused, but it wasn't that big of a deal. And another thing that I liked is that Kane and another boy have a bit of a romance that's happening while they're trying to figure out what's going on and how to put an end to people suffering, basically. I'm finding that this book is a little bit difficult to talk about without spoiling things, so I'm just gonna stop there. I really wanted to love this book and I did enjoy it. Like, I read this. I read this so fast and it was so fun, but it doesn't stick with you. So when I finished the book, I was really positive about it. I really enjoyed it. But as time goes along, like, I don't love it as much as I originally liked it while reading it, if that makes sense. I think it's a fun romp, but it's not something that's stuck with me, as I said. So I ended up giving this book like 3.5 stars, somewhere in there. When I first finished it, I was like, wow, I really enjoyed that. Like, that was so fun. But then it dwindled over time. If you're looking for YA standalones that feature main gay protagonists, check out this one. After that, I continued my roll of LGBT plus fantasy reads, and I read The House in the Cerulean Sea by TJ Klune. I did an individual book review for this, so I'll leave it up in the card symbol if you want to check it out. I adored this book. I thought it was so good. I originally listened to it on audiobook, and I really enjoyed the audiobook narration as well, but I loved it so much that I bought myself a physical copy so that I could go back and reread it. It basically follows this guy named Linus Baker, and at the beginning of the book, he is working for the department in charge of magical youths or something like that. Yes, and he's been working for this department for about 19 years. At the beginning of the book, the department needs someone that is super by the book to go and check on this one specific classified orphanage that has a lot of very dangerous magical youths at it. I forgot to say that this department is mainly in charge of going to different orphanages and making sure that they're up to the standard of care that they're supposed to be at. Linus is a super boring person at the beginning of the book. He goes to these orphanages and he just neutrally decides if the orphanages should stay open or not, and he doesn't really think about what happens to the kids if they get closed down. Anyway, he gets chosen to go on this classified mission because he is so by the book and is gonna give a very neutral report on what's happening at the orphanage and if it should stay open or not, because there's a huge concentration of very dangerous magical kids at this orphanage, so they want to make sure that it's going smoothly. Then once he gets to this orphanage, he starts to meet all of the orphans and the caretaker of the orphanage, who they start to have a bit of romance, so there is a gay romance in here as well. And I just freaking adored this book. I loved all the characters. Linus grows so much during the course of this novel. I loved all the side characters. I loved Arthur. I loved all the kids. I loved learning about all their different powers and how that makes them different and how society views them. I go into way more detail in the review and I don't spoil anything, so check that out if you want to know more of my thoughts. I gave this book 5 stars. It is so freaking good. After that, I read The Selection by Kira Cass, which was the May pick for the House Salt Book Club. I'll leave a link up in the card symbol to the live show that we did. There is spoilers, so be aware of that. And I'll also leave a link down below to the Instagram, which I take all the pictures for the Instagram, and the Twitter for announcements and such. It's basically a book club where my friends and I pick a random book and then read it together and then talk about it on a live show and interact with everyone, so it's a good time. This one follows a girl named America Singer in this world. It's basically a dystopian US, but it's called the States of China. Something about China took over the United States. And basically the US has turned into a huge caste system, so the ones are the best caste, they're the richest, they're like the kings of this world, and then the lowest class is a 8, I think. America Singer is a 5, which basically means that she is of the like artsy group. It's people that do paintings and musical work, sing. She's a singer, so America Singer, and stuff like that. At the beginning of the book, you find out that the crown prince needs to find his bride, and then they're going to select a certain number of girls, and they're all going to go to the palace, and then it's like a bachelor situation where he goes on different dates with these girls and eliminates them until he finds the one, which is the name of the last book. My biggest pro for this book is that it is such a quick read. I flew through this thing in no time at all. I listened to the audiobook and I think I was listening to it at the fastest speed that I've ever listened to any audiobook in my life. It's very consumable and it's just like you just can read it and not even think about it and you miss nothing. So it was a nice break for my brain, but I didn't really enjoy this all that much. I didn't really enjoy the character of America. I think that she's very frustrating because she's one of those characters that is not like other girls, and she is one of those characters that's like, I am not beautiful, but my little sister looks exactly like me and she's gorgeous, which doesn't make any sense. And I just feel like that she doesn't think about what's happening very much. Madi said in the live show that she's very unobservant, and I agree with that. She just doesn't look around her, and she's not someone that I was rooting for. I was rooting for the other girls, even though you don't really get to know them all that much. That said, there are a lot of characters that don't matter in this. You meet them and then they're eliminated and you never hear about them again. I didn't particularly love the love interests in here either. I often see this book is pitched as like The Hunger Games meets The Bachelor, because she has a boy from her hometown that she was with before she left to go to the selection, and then she starts to fall in love with the prince, Maxim, I can't remember his name. There are similar vibes in that situation. There's also like a rebellion happening in the background that you don't really pay attention to all that much. There are a lot of elements there, but I didn't really enjoy it. So I ended up giving this book 2 stars because it's fine, it's okay, but I didn't really like it. A lot of people in House Salt rated it lower, a couple rated it higher, but for me, 2 stars. I then read my least favorite book that I've read in so long. That is The Children of the Lamp, The Akhenaten Adventure by P.B. Care. This one follows a set of twins. I can't even remember their names. John and Philippa, and at the beginning of the book, they get their wisdom teeth taken out, and then you find out that they are actually Jinn, and they have to figure out what that means, what their culture is about, what kind of powers that they have, and the rules that come along with their powers. It basically follows them over the course of their first summer as Jin, learning about everything and having to try to save the world from the evil Jin. I hated this. I really did not like it. I thought it was offensive in a lot of ways. There are a ton of fatphobic comments in here. The characters basically throw down on everyone. There's a lot of xenophobia in here, racism. There's a lot of enforced gender stereotypes. And there's also ableism. Like, all the bad things are in this book. And I am shocked that this was published. Like, they're Jen and they love being in Egypt, but they even describe Egypt and Cairo in like the most disgusting manner that could ever be used to describe a place. Specifically, it's anti-Arab, anti-French, lots of anti-French things going on in here, and anti-Russian. Oh, and I even forgot that the characters do blackface to go and rob a museum. They said that it was suitable to carry out a robbery, was putting on all black clothing and painting their faces black. I'm just, what? And I also just remembered that at the beginning of the book, John is not like the most stereotypically attractive person. He has a lot of acne at the current time. And the moment that they get their Jin powers, they become gorgeous supermodels, which is like, okay. I actually took pictures of some of the things, so let me find that. So the first one, they're talking about a French woman. They describe her as having a long, thin nose that was so often in the air that she seemed almost to look down on the people as she spoke. This was just her manner, and she was not at all unfriendly for a French woman. It's like, why? Okay. Oh, and then this one is talking about 3 American tourists for whose descriptions the word large hardly seemed large enough. Each of them looked like a pile of enormous bagels heaped one on top of the other, which is like, why are you describing someone who's just big like that? I don't think that the author is American, but this came across as Native Americans. Several dozen casinos, many of the world's gambling games, were invented by the Ifrit, which is a type of Jinn. For the general torment of humankind, it saves them the trouble of exercising their own powers to inflict bad luck on people. The Ifrit are a very lazy tribe of Jinn. Alright. They describe the French flag as a limp rag. This one is throwing down on Egyptian cuisine. I must admit it does smell rather good. Ordinarily I avoid the food in this beastly country. The standards of hygiene are not very good. It's only too easy to get what they call, with considerable understatement, jippy tummy. One of the characters is also missing an arm, and they constantly talk about how he is not capable of doing things. He is driving them around or something like that, and one of the characters says that he is often not up to whatever task he's given because he only has one arm. This is the character talking about himself. Me, on the other hand, I don't speak one word of Arabic. I haven't a penny of the local money. I couldn't even find my way to the airport, much as I'd like to do mind. And in case you hadn't noticed, I have just the one arm, so I don't really see what I can do. It's like, having just one arm doesn't mean that you're completely incapable of doing anything. She may be French, but contrary to popular belief, even the French wash their hair now and again. So, calling French people dirty. Then they make a joke about wanting to make a puddle of water in front of a blind person crossing a road deeper so that they'll trip more. It just goes on and on and on. I took a bunch of pictures. So, suffice it to say that I hated this book and I gave it 1 star. I didn't like the characters. I thought that they were, again, all of the things that I described before. It wasn't even a very good story either. I'm shocked that I finished it. I think it was because I wanted to feel justified in rating it 1 star that I finished the whole thing. I won't be keeping this book. I just kept it so that I could do this review. I hated it. 1 star. Don't recommend it. And the 35th thing that I read in 2020 is Her Body and Other Problems by Carmen Maria Machado. I read this for a book club that I'm in with my fellow interns from last year. We all worked at Writer's House and we're all huge book people, so we decided to make a book club so that we could keep in contact with one another. This is the first book that we've read together. This is a collection of short stories that all center around the theme of women and their bodies and their autonomy, everything like that. My favorite of this collection is The Husband's Stitch, which is actually the first, and it's also kind of what the cover is. This one follows a woman, and it basically is talking about how women, when they get married to men, are expected to give up a lot of things. And so the main character has a ribbon around her neck, and it ends up being like the only thing that she has of her own. While reading it, you'll notice that she describes almost everything as his, meaning her husband, or our. So there's like a joint ownership of something. Very few things are described as my. The husband at one point says, "Why do you want to hide it from me?" And she responds, "I'm not hiding it, it just isn't yours." speaking about the ribbon. So I really loved this one. The ending was very... Definitely recommend reading it just for that first story if you're picking and choosing from these. I did a lengthy Goodreads review that goes through all of the different short stories, so I'll leave that down in the description if you want to check it out. But very quickly, the second story I gave 3.5 stars, which is called Inventory. It's basically a story where the woman telling it tells her life story and how she related to people that she was sexually attracted to. She is bisexual, at least. She sleeps with both men and women. You get her life story that way, which I thought was a really interesting way to tell a story. After that was Mothers, which I originally didn't like that much, but then as time went along and I was thinking about it more, my enjoyment of it increased. It's a little bit more trippy and a little bit more unclear because she is an unreliable narrator. For me, the story was about a woman who was thinking about what could have been if she had just hidden her abusive relationship and just dealt with it, and instead other things have happened and she's almost like mourning those things. I gave that one 3 stars. Then is Especially Heinous, which goes through all of the episode titles of Law and Order SVU and does like a fantasy version of the characters. I didn't like this one. I've watched episodes of Law and Order SVU, but not to the point where I would know all of the titles and like be able to compare the two, meaning comparing the story that she has written in this short story versus the TV show plot. I thought this one was not my favorite. I ended up giving this one 1 star just because it goes on for so long too. I did not enjoy it. After that is Real Women Have Bodies. This one is a story where basically women are fading away and are actually losing their bodies. I would have liked this one to be the length of the Especially Heinous one because it could have used a little bit more. I was really enjoying it, but I just wanted more from it. I ended up giving this one 3.5 stars. After that is 8 Bites. It follows a mother, and at the beginning of the story, all of her sisters have gone through gastro bypass surgery or something similar to that. And because her sisters have done this, they have all gotten super skinny, and she's still a bigger woman. She still has weight from when she had a child and she never lost it. She ends up becoming so insecure that she decides to consider doing the procedure as well, and then it just follows her mental process of how she starts to think about doing this and how she wants to just have 8 bites of something. After you have the gastric bypass surgery, you don't have the space to eat as much as you could in the past, and so you become full after 8 bites. It talks about the message of fat shaming others and fat shaming yourself. When you're so unhappy with how your body looks that you turn to surgery to force a change on your body, what that message sends to other people that look like you or are the same shape or size as you. I really enjoyed this one as well. I ended up giving this one also 4 stars. After that is The Resident, where a woman goes to one of those writing retreat things, but it's just for artsy people. So some people write music and some people do art. It was okay, but I wasn't really interested in what was happening. I ended up giving this one 2.5 stars just because I wasn't invested in the character and what she was doing and her process. And then the last one is Difficult at Parties, which I also really enjoyed. My book club ended up discussing this one a lot because of what it addresses in here and what it doesn't address. In this one, a woman has been sexually assaulted, so trigger warnings for that, but she is starting to try to figure out how to go on with her life, and she finds out that she can listen and hear people's thoughts when she's watching porn, and then the story goes from there. Basically, during the course of the story, you find out that she's difficult at parties. That's the last story. I ended up giving it like 3.5 stars. Again, I'll leave that link down below if you want to check out more in-depth thoughts on this. Just there's so many stories that I don't want to go over time. I ended up giving this collection as a whole like 3.5 just because there were some that I really enjoyed, gave them 4 stars, really liked them and would recommend them, and then there was others that I really didn't enjoy, so just kind of meet in the middle. And that's the last book that's in this wrap up. If you like this video, please give it a big thumbs up and comment down below what you guys have been reading recently. If you have any recommendations for me based off of the books that I've read recently or anything that you think that I would like, leave those down in the comments. It is June, so it's Pride Month, so if you have any recommendations for that, leave them down below as well. I've got a couple of books over there on my nightstand that I'm gonna try to get to this month as well. Anything else you want me to know, leave it down below, and I will talk to you guys next time. Bye. Nookie, you wanna say bye? He doesn't want to. Bye.